What's up guys? Today we're looking at keyhole, so we're looking at some basic techniques, and today we're going to be looking at striking with our hands. Okay, so we're going to look at 4 techniques, just going to do a really quick overview of all 4 of them. Okay, so we're going to look at the first technique. This is going to be our jab, so our kizamitzuki. Second technique is going to be our gyakutzuki, so our cross. Third technique is going to be our lunging punch, our oitzuki, so our stepping straight punch. And the 4th thing we're going to look at is just turning those into open-handed strikes. Okay, so shoteitzuki, so we're looking at the palm heel here. Okay, so 4 techniques. We're going to do a whirlwind tour of them in this video, just cover each one very briefly, and I hope you enjoy. So the first technique that we're going to look at is going to be our kizamitzuki. So this is our jab punch. Okay, so from our normal guard position, and so it's going to be whichever guard that you prefer. My preference is for my front hand to be about a fist's width between elbow and body. Okay, my front hand is level with my front shoulder. My hand's loose, so I can grab, grip, but also strike quite easily. My rear hand, that's going to come up. I'm going to have about 1.5 thumbs distance between it and my face. I'm going to tuck this elbow in nice and close to my body. And again, just loose with this hand. I don't want to be really tight fists here, because that's going to really slow down my techniques. Okay, if I have loose hands and I just make a fist right at the end of the technique, that's going to keep that tension right to the end. Okay, it's going to keep me loose, techniques are going to flow, and I'm going to have that kime, okay, that tension right at the end. Okay, so from my starting position, I'm going to imagine for now that there's an opponent in front of me, exact same stance as I'm in. So his feet are in the same position, same width, and same distance. Okay, what I'm going to do, my front foot is going to step forward, so it's between his 2 feet. Okay, so this will come in, it will narrow my stance slightly, but I'll be directly between his legs. Okay, so I'm just going to step forward, step back, step forward, step back, step forward, step back. Okay, next up, I'm going to add the hand. So the hand's going to come straight out, okay, punch straight up. What we see a lot of times with people doing when they first start is they start knocking at the door, particularly if they have more of a grappler's hand position for their punches. They come, knock on the door. Okay, we want a nice straight line of travel. Okay, and this means we don't want to turn our palm down until right at the end, because then we prevent that knocking on the door. Okay, so I'm going to step my front foot forward between my opponent's legs. I'm just going to jab, and jab, and jab. So that's our kizamitzuki. So next we're going to move on to our gyakutzuki. Okay, so the feet for this is going to be exactly the same. Okay, so I've got my imaginary opponent. He's got his stance, matches mine perfectly. He's doing a really good job. Okay, my front foot is going to step forward between his 2 feet. Okay, so just going to practice that a couple more times. Bringing my stance a little bit narrower, getting my weight over this front leg. Okay, now as we step forward, this hand is going to come out, and again, same as with the jab, we don't want to twist that palm down until right at the end. And again, that just prevents us knocking on the door. Okay, we come straight out, twist at the end. This hand stays here to protect that. Okay, step in, punch. I'm looking at you, I want to be looking at him. So that's our gyakutzuki, our cross. So our next technique is going to be our oitzuki, so our lunging punch or our stepping straight punch. Okay, this time it's going to be my rear foot that moves, but I'm still aiming for the same spot between my opponent's feet. So he's got his stance, it's beautiful, it looks exactly like mine, so it's spot on. Okay, from my starting position, I'm just going to step that rear foot forward between his feet. My rear foot becomes the front foot, and I shift about 70% of my weight there to my front foot. Okay? The arm is going to do exactly the same thing as we did with our gyakutzuki. Okay? It's going to come straight out. So looking at it from the other side, I'm going to step between my opponent's feet. The hand's going to come straight out, and it's going to rotate as it reaches the end. We're going to get that nice kime at the end. And that left hand's going to stay to protect my head. So that's our oitzuki, or our stepping punch. So the next thing we're going to look at is shotai, so palm heel strikes. Okay? Now the movement for all of these is exactly the same. Okay? The only thing that changes is instead of striking with a fist, we're going to strike with the heel of the hand. So this beautiful figure 8 at the bottom of our hand. So as we step, I'm going to do it with the oitzuki, so with our stepping punch here. Okay? So as I step, my hand again just rotates at the end there. Okay? If I try and palm heel, I'm just going to be, again, knocking on the door. That's not going to do as much as we want it to. So my hand's going to stay facing in, and it's going to twist at the end. Twist at the end. Okay? Keep that elbow nice and close in, twist at the end. Again, if we're doing a kizamitzuki, so a jab with the palm heel, we're going to step in, twist at the end, twist at the end, twist at the end. Okay. So finger position is debated. Okay, so you've got two options. You have your fingers out straight and up, and you have your fingers in this kind of tiger claw position. My personal preference is for my fingers to be in. The main reason I prefer that is because if I miss, I don't want to be bending my fingers back against potentially quite hard parts of my opponent's anatomy. The counter argument that's often made is that, again, if I miss strike, I can end up damaging my hand by striking on a knuckle and pushing the fingers down to the opposite direction. Either way has its risks, so I would say, look at your personal comfort, which is best for you, and stick with that in your training. So the last thing we're going to look at just very quickly is the foot position for all of these punches. So in a second, I'm going to move the camera down. It's just going to be focused on my lower body, so we're going to look at what the legs are doing. But primarily what we want to be doing is driving off the rear leg, so whichever leg's to the rear. Okay? And if we're throwing a jab, we want to be pivoting around that front foot. Okay? Similarly, if we're throwing an oitzuki, we want to be pivoting around that front foot as we drive through the rear leg. So this is for the kizamitzuki. Okay? So I'm moving from a stance, I'm stepping in, I'm driving through that back foot, and I'm going to pivot slightly on that front foot. Okay? About 70% of my weight is on my front leg here, okay? And I'm driving my weight forward with my back leg, so you see my heels off the ground. That's going to be the same with the gyakutzuki. I'm going to step in, I'm going to drive, except this time I'm not pivoting in over my front foot. Okay, it's a lot more solid in position. Finally, the oitzuki, I'm going to step in, drive off that rear leg, pivot on that front foot, exactly the same finishing position as my jab, my kizamitzuki. So that's a really quick overview of our main three punches: our kizamitzuki, our gyakutzuki, our oitzuki, and how we can use them as shoteitzuki, palm heel strikes as well. Just looking at the feet quickly.